Greetings, this is Adam M. Brown, or Kal Kat, the Kal Katster, either one. Author of 2,000 books. Okay, so, yes, 2,000 books on Amazon. Go and check them out. We have the Canary Space, we have Space Vanguard's USV, we have Cillian Saga, Starship Locations, all available on Amazon. Adam M. Brown and John Yeager, or Mark's Cards and Kal Kat. Kal Kat and Mark's Cards, either way, yeah. It's Space Vanguards, and check it out. Okay, so, on Amazon. So, yeah, this is a review of, I have seen the, well, it is technically opening day, 2 days before the 4th of July, of Spider-Man Far From Home, thwap thwap. Yeah, so, Spider-Man Far From Home. This review, well, will go up here, but it will likely contain plot-oriented spoilers, so be warned. Just because, in order to explain the story, it kind of has to have some of them, so. I probably won't do a massive scene-by-scene breakdown of the whole thing, just because yeah, okay, there's, some parts are confusing, so there we go. The snap happened, the end of, Endgame, there was a snap, right? The snap was undone, so in this universe, they established that, okay, some people are actually 6 years older, or 5 years older than they were. So they came back 5 years older, but weren't they... So did the snap bring them back to just before they all left? Yeah, that's a little confusing. So they're saying they're older, whereas Peter Parker and them would actually be the ones that are older, and they would be deposited in high school, like in their 20s. And they were formerly like 16. So yeah, yeah, that was a little confused there. So one of the younger freshmen was suddenly a senior. Which, yeah, wouldn't make sense, because high school's only 4 years. So there was some, yeah, and some husbands and wives got remarried and stuff, and they came back and they were all different. So yeah, it opens with them mentioning the blip as because they don't know what really happened, and high school reporter was clearly supposed to be a Gwen Stacy archetype, and the yeah, and we have Peter Parker and his best friend, and all the cast going on, and MJ and all of them going on a trip, and they're going to go on a trip to Europe, starting with Venice, and then on to other places. But a creature, mysterious water creature, attacks. Earlier on in the story, though, there was Nick Fury is investigating a town that got completely uprooted by a weird cyclone. And there's a mysterious guy who fights off the water monster in the other universe. The other thing, claiming to be from another multiverse, another Earth. Earth 882. They establish in this one that, well, Jon Favreau is actually in it as a character, which is interesting. But this is a different director. This is Columbia and Sony doing a Marvel movie for Marvel, which is kind of an interesting idea. I guess that's how they were able to have two studios doing literally back-to-back with the other one. That wasn't... they're going to re-release Avengers Endgame, but it's still playing. So, they're re-releasing it this month, but it's still playing. Yeah. We got in there, and this is yet another theater instance where somebody had my seat. This time I did want to sit on the seat, though, because otherwise the seat would have been, I would have been on the floor. So the kid moved over. It was a kid. This time it was a kid, so he moved over to his seat. His sister told him to move. Oh well. So yeah, yeah. So yeah, I didn't see hardly any of the previews. It was a little late getting in there. I don't think I saw any of the previews. It was just starting with that little jingle they put on before Cinemark with the guy doing the thing, the guy doing the Cinemark logo thing. A little water here. It's sort of a live blog, but not really. Yeah. So yeah, keep going. Uh, you don't need to cut that. Yeah, so there's a guy who helps them out in Venice. Is revealed to be Mysterio. They start calling him that. I remember the Mysterio comics. So like Kevin Smith, who wrote some of them back in the day, actually was that guy. I didn't write any, but I'm saying like him, I saw what was gonna happen before, not from clairvoyance or anything like that, but because Kevin Smith kind of spoiled it about 2 months ago when he said, "Oh, spoiler, Mysterio is actually a bad guy." So he's going to be lying about being a good guy to trick them. How they got there, though, was a little interesting. They I won't give away all the convoluted stuff about how they got there, but like he's a former employee of Stark, I guess, or something. But yeah, I mean the other universe allegedly, yeah. So, which would kind of alert Nick Fury to who he was, I would think. But they kind of explain that away in the after credits sequence. If you stay to the very end credits, they explain how they screwed that up, which is funny. In the Tom Brookston ending, there's a Tom Brookston. He's in it as an alien, as one of the Kree. There's a sequence with them. I won't give away everything. Just stay to the end credits, and you'll see. Yeah, he's a sellout to Sony and Columbia Pictures. Of course he is. No, it wasn't him, but it sounded a lot like him. But yeah, there was a lot of Mysterio using different ways technology to make it look like he's this is gonna have spoilery pop reviews just because it kind of has to. So I'll release this video, but note that there are going to be plot-oriented stuff, just because it's in order to explain what's going on. Okay, Peter Parker wants to ask MJ out and go to Paris and get this Bloodstone and do this other thing, and the friend falls in love with the Gwen girl on the plane. We see Spider-Man have different costumes, 3 or 4 different costumes in it. He leaves one of them behind, and they get the other ones to him. And there's a funny scene where they go to Prague at one point, and this lady orders him to change clothes, and the other male antagonist, not villain, other male antagonist on the trip, wants to blackmail him using the picture. He gets in there and gets a picture of him. At one point, Peter Parker is given some Tony Stark glasses that do special things like call up space drones and things, which becomes important later. Why they would do that, it doesn't really make sense. They would do that without checking. It's funny in a lot of these Marvel movies and a lot of Sony movies as well, more so in Sony movies, if people just talked to each other, half of a movie would never happen, just because they would be like, oh, this Mysterio guy actually looks like this other guy from episodes ago. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't deal with him because we looked him up on the database, and even though it's flash forward 5 years later, he still looks like the same dude. We should check that out, But yeah, Kevin Smith called it, saying that he was a villain. It starts out as an antagonist, an anti-hero, and then an antagonist. But it's fairly obvious that the villain in this story is going to become a villain. His motivation is just to get even with Tony Stark, who's dead in the series. Follow that? Yeah, and it's like, why? Other than just, yeah, his motivation is a little weak. The movie's really good. There's a lot of good visuals and stuff. It's funny that they turned the idea of magic and mystery on its head by having holographic mind tricking instead of it being magic, which is kind of cool. Very much like Star Trek. Had they been doing the Star Trek holodeck stuff today, it would be like this movie. Be like virtual. And unlike wearing virtual goggles, you would have the virtual world would be around you, and you wouldn't be able to tell you're in it, which would be the holodeck basically. It'd be Cillian space in the Cillian stories. Buy my book. Yeah. So. Yeah, it would be like that. Or they have a realm where that happens, or anything can happen. Yeah, and they mentioned the elementals. This caused a packed audience to lose their shit. They were like, oh, the elementals. Okay, the elementals are some of the our Marvel baddies. They have those guys. They basically they're sort of East Asian in a way because you have earth, wind, fire, water, and all that. Yeah, the elementals. You have sort of almost an Avatar: The Last Airbender kind of thing going on, which was an Americanized version of manga. But that idea of earth, water, wind, and fire is basically the elemental. They mentioned that they just lost. Whoa, dude, the elemental. What they did in this movie was clever. I won't give that away. I won't give away what's going on with that. So one of the elementals was attacking. That's in the trailer. Also, a lot of what was in the trailer kind of gives away too much, I think. So Kevin Smith wasn't so much predicting Mysterio's turn as saying he knew better because he knows who that character is. But also the trailer kind of gives away. Don't watch the last trailer of the movie. Which also changes how he meets up with Nick Fury. The later trailer does that. Unless you want it to give it away, you can pretty much put the pieces together. It's kind of the problem with the Sony version of 2016 Ghostbusters as well. They gave away all the plot points in the movie. It's like, I know what's going to happen. This right here, this lady's going to act crazy. They're going to turn the one guy. They're going to go from here, and then the end, they're going to fight ghosts in some ghost realm. That's basically what happened. It's like, oh man, I don't want to give away too much. It literally just came out. It's not like I have like a secret thing that says, it's no moratorium here as a fan critic. I'm not an official critic, so I'm not official, so I shouldn't be flagged by anybody. So, what time? How much? It was just going quick. All right, so I saw it recently. Well, 12 hours ago. Let me see what time it is. What's that? Nah, it wasn't 12 hours ago. I saw it at, was it like 1:25, 1:30, somewhere around there? Yeah, 1:30. So it was about 7 hours ago. It was cool. So go out and see it. I don't want to give away too much. A lot of the stuff. Yeah, so did that mean that at the end of Avengers Endgame, maybe you can correct me, does that mean that it's no longer 2022, that it's gone back to 2019? Because that's only 3 years. And does that mean that reversed? So it's not 2024 or 2025 or whatever, it's 2019 again. And everything is back the way it was the moment everyone left? And then, because they kind of indicated at the beginning that some of them are 5 years older and some of them are younger. So, what happened? And how come Jon Favreau likes the aunt now? And she reciprocates. It's kind of odd. There's some confusing stuff. I mean, it's cool. It's definitely a 4-star movie. The critics are fawning all over it. And it's a Sony movie, so there you go. Well, it's partly Marvel. And it's partly corporate chills. But no, it's good. Yeah. So, um, hologrammatic thing. It's sort of like a high-tech version of Doctor Strange. They mention him at one point, but that he's not around. It's in the trailer. Um, what I like how they gave Mysterio that goldfish bowl hat helmet thing that he's got. The comic book. I was like, yes, that's freaking awesome. It's sort of like when they did the Black Manta and Aquaman, and they made him have like a manta suit. It was like sitting behind him, like this helmet might be too big. I was like, that was pretty funny. So yeah, there was a joke about. There was a dick joke in the movie, but it was very subtle, and I got it. Oh, but yeah, yeah, there were some interesting humor choices. Nothing was bad though. At PG-13. Uh, so yeah, and that's not Morales in the trailer. Yeah, that's actually just Spider-Man in a slightly darker costume. It's not Venom either. So yeah, there's a spoiler. It's not. It's just they give him a stealth costume basically at one point, so he can blend in because the red one's a little too obvious. So they give him that. The Stark people. Yeah, I don't. The Nick Fury people. Odd thing about the illusions, though. At one point, the illusions trap him. Somebody's making illusions. I won't give away who. And it's like, how would he, like, if they could surround him in, I guess, an energy field that changes the matter around him to his perception, like a TV screen, wouldn't it still look fake? Genuinely? Yeah. Oh well. And the two stay for the after credits sequence. I don't want to give that away. It's the most awesome part of the movie. There's a, oh my goodness, I don't want to give that away. It all ties together, believe it or not. So yeah, stay for the immediate after the thing credits and the other credits. And there's actually a little Spider-Man show going on as well on paper, but that's not it. It's the end credits thing. The show was fun too. Well, the little paper show thing. It's kind of like what they did with the other ones. They also dedicated it to Stan Lee and the other dude that passed away. Stan Lee. Yeah. So yeah, it's really good. I don't want to give away all of it, so I'm not going to. But this did have some plot reviews. It was just, suffice it to say, the villain antagonist that started out as an anti-hero became a villain. Was really obvious, but other than that, yeah, it's a great ride. So let's see it. And yeah, I wonder if they'll do a number 3 and then reboot it again like they did the other two. Like, there's been 5 of those Spider-Man movies before this guy. There were 3 with Andrew Garfield, or was it Tobey Maguire did 3 and Andrew Garfield did 3. This is good. Did I get that right? Something like that. This is the new guy, or is this Andrew Garfield now? The other guy was Webb or something. No, this is the new guy. This is yeah, the new guy. I looked this shit. Yeah. Who's the star of the current Spider-Man?
I'm not sure.
Dang phone. Shit. Maybe I just looked that shit up.
Which one?
It's the current one. You're tweaky looking. Who is that? Oh.
Spider-Man Far From Home features Tom Holland.
That's it. Tom Holland, the current one. Okay. I was thinking that other dude. Tom Holland. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So it was not Miles. That would have been cool though. Actually, Yeah, I won't give it away. But yeah, sort of a live show here. So no cuts. Shoot. Yeah. And also, principal photography begins anew on B unit. Roll stuff on Chimera. Some space effects and things like that. Some ship sets, things like that. Also, the script for the next Trans Tech or Space Bridge has been approved, and working on the next script of that. And and it is based directly on the largest and most impressive mush story from the TF mush era, the TF alt mush era of the late '90s, early 2000s. The Corrosion War Without End, which was Rob Powers. I'm sure that's the stage name. His blog was still up since 2005 or so. So we can't pay anybody that's in those. So give him a byline and the credit for a script, but we can't pay anybody, so we can't pay him either. But yeah, it'll say story by this guy from Transformer Mush when it comes out. We'll see whether it is filmable. It should be. It was written like an episode, long episode of Transformers. So more on that later. But for now, Spider-Man: Far From Home. I was probably saying Homecoming the whole time. That was the other one. Tom Holland. He's a funny guy. He was on a show talking about working alongside that guy from the other movie and going to the gym and trying to run a mile, and he was out of shape. Well, they do all the CG stuff to make him like super powered. Anyway, the glasses in the movie have something to do with Tony Stark tech that they think they would know not to give him right away, which would solve all the other issues that happen later. But yeah, again, coincidences in a movie where you have where it's like, okay, a plot contrivance. If idea A didn't go to point idea B, then they never would have had anything to do with each other. If certain events hadn't, I guess it's a causality thing. It's a perfect example of Schreidenholder's cat. Schreidenholder's cat? Yeah. Schreidenholder's cat. Which is a psychological experiment. It's also Schadenfreude. A little bit of that too. Pleasure of someone else's pain. But Schreidenholder's cat is a psychology experiment referenced in the X-Men movie that referenced it. Also, there was something else that referenced it. Some other program on the internet, but not related. It's a psychological experiment that it wasn't actual real. Nobody did this. Where a physicist imagined what it would be like if you had a cat in a box with a hammer in the box, and there was or something to break the hammer. There was a vial of poison or radioactive material at one end, and there was cat food at the other end. Deciding whether the cat would be alive or dead, you could not open the box. You had to just think about it. And when I first heard of this weird experiment, which I wasn't really, no cats were harmed, no PETA, don't get mad. It was just an experiment. They did not actually use an animal. It was a thought experiment. Right? They just drew it on a board and said this is what happened. Of course, when I heard of this in science class, I immediately thought of the third option they didn't think of. What happens if the cat opens the box and escapes? It's like, oh, yeah, the experiment's ruined. It's like, because cat's senses are stronger than ours, like a dog's are. Oh, the dog's sense of smell, it would never work on a dog because dog sense of smell. The dog would just whimper until it got freed. The cat would scream and claw and its way out of the box and knock the lid off and run away. Because he'd be like, hey, you know. So your experiment would be ruined. Yes. So it's like that. It's Fred and Hooters cat. Sort of. So yeah, I thought that they were actually 5 years in the future, so they wouldn't be aging. Only they would come back 5 years. Yeah, the other ones around them would be aged 5 years. But yeah, so So yeah, the other ones would be older. But yeah, Peter Parker and anybody that was killed in the snap would suddenly be whisked into a future where they were younger. Yeah, that's it. That. Okay. So this is not a sign language. It's web shooters. Yeah. It's not a symbol for anything. Doesn't mean horns. Doesn't mean this. It's just web shooters. But yeah, Stan Lee was quoted in an interview when they asked him, so what did you think of a radioactive spider? And he's all, well, it was the 60s. Use your imagination. We were all pretty wasted. Thought of that. It's like, yeah, you probably were. It was the 60s. So, because yeah, the Spider-Man was after Batman and Superman. They were the 30s. So it was the early 60s when Spider-Man came out. So yeah, 30 years later. Which is why there's a noir Spider-Man, but it's a throwback, so they can make it look like he was from the 60s. Yeah, the cartoons from the late 60s were earliest exposure to Spider-Man I had. Yes. And I really did enjoy the Spider-Man thing with the multiverse, Into the Spider-Verse. That was really cool. And I had seen all those iterations. It turns out, even Spider-Ham, the pig one. But yeah, I liked the Penny Parker, the Asian one, and the which is probably where the Penny character comes from, and Inspector Gadget. No, not really. But kinda. Yeah, there's like Inspector Gadget, and there's Penny Parker from Spider-Man, and she was an Asian Spider-Man who had Japanese Spider-Man who had a car or a robot, a giant. Of course, she had a robot. Spider-Man robot, and also a car vehicle that changed into Spider, which is crazy. The first Spider-Man movie ever was actually the Japanese one. so yeah, she's like Spider-Man. There was a male one too. They did a male one as well, and of course there's Turkish Spider-Man, which is just bizarre. Yeah. Turkish Spider-Man and Turkish Captain America. He's like a bad guy or something. He's an anti-hero. Yes, the difference between a villain and an antagonist. I'm so random because it's live stream. Is it a villain? Is an antagonist has a motivation that isn't necessarily evil. They think they're right. So they're going about their motivation based on their preconceived bias. And they can be proven wrong, and maybe they will turn to a villain, or maybe not. An antagonist usually has more of an agenda than a villain, whereas a villain is more like is more straight up like, okay, I'm evil for the sake of evil, so I'm going to do something bad. and get you back for something, or get even with you or something. Usually it's revenge, and often they misquote the premise. Often they've been even in the Shazam movie they said the green-eyed monster. Yeah, often and in Godzilla, that's why they mentioned Shred and Hooter's cat. It was in the Godzilla movie. Okay, yeah, and and yeah, which wasn't that bad. Dialogue was ridiculous, but then again, it's a Godzilla movie. Yeah, if you're gonna knock it for the dialogue, well, yeah, the girl did okay. Yeah, Bobby Brown. She did all right. No relation. Yeah. No relation. So. Yeah. So. Anyway. Yeah. So. Yeah. I was saying villain and they're saying jealousy. The green-eyed monster, and that's loosely translated from Shakespeare. It's from Othello, and the line is jealousy is the green-eyed monster, which has taken my master, Othello. So, it's not a monster, it's jealousy. It's a green-eyed monster. So, it's not green, its eyes are green. Yes, and it's after Othello, because Iago in the play convinces Othello to act like a jerk to his boss so that he can get even with him for having been snookered out of a deal earlier. That's the plot of Othello. And it's, yeah, there's a lot of weird stereotypes in it. Even in the 1600s they had this thing of he was Shakespeare was of course ahead of his time, and he was basically saying don't be like offensive and racist. He was saying like don't be yeah. Pound of Flesh is from Merchant of Venice. Yeah, got my plays mixed up, but I didn't get the green-eyed monster mixed up. Yeah, Merchant of Venice, that was all right. Wasn't as good as the other one. And Citizen Kane was totally based on William Randolph Hearst, and he got mad, and he was like, no. You can't do that. I'm going to banish your movie. And he didn't get the movie released on time. And Orson Welles had for several years waited to get it released. Yeah, so, yeah. And yeah, that's the end of the thing here. And they finally did. And Rosebud is never actually said to anyone in the movie. So it's actually an error. Yeah, the audience knows, but no one ever said it to anyone in earshot. So. The mysterious Rosebud is the sled. Yeah, I gave that away too.